just like we talked about with Arkansas and South Carolina, a couple programs that are at the crossroads, a couple of programs that I think most fan bases are pretty sure they should have been doing better over the last couple of years. I don't know how much North Carolina. I don't have the pulse for the North Carolina fan base, so we can start with them. Obviously, defense has been a huge struggle with them, but on the field results this year, I think were really disappointing overall for the Tar Heels. You have the guy who's going to end up being the number 2 probably prospect in the NFL draft. We'll get into our draft coverage really soon. But when you have Drake May and you have all the offensive talent that they have, it's really disappointing to have a ceiling of about 8 wins as a half team.
Yeah, and it does show that you can't truly just play one side of the football. We see it, and we see some teams who say like, okay, well, are you just like an elite defense and no offense? Are you an elite offense, no defense? You can't really do either because it ultimately will hold you back, right? If you're a great offensive team, but your defense is bad, not only are you going to be playing from behind sometimes, which will limit what you can call as an offense, but it'll also take your offense out of a rhythm. Sometimes you've seen like ball control teams go up against a high powered offense and it gets them, off their rhythm. They don't touch the football for 7 or 8 minutes of game time. And you can watch that happen where the team breaks down. I think North Carolina is a great example of this, where the offense is great, no problem. They failed to reach, I'm looking through their results, they failed to reach the 30-point scoring mark like 3 times this year. They lost all those games. It was Clemson, North Carolina State, and Virginia. They lost all those games. You shouldn't be losing, to Virginia in the first place.
Shouldn't be losing to Virginia at all. Yeah.
But if you can just score some points, like and keep up with some of those teams, you should have to be okay. But when you look at some of those outputs, you gave up 31 to Virginia in that game, 31 to Clemson, who they struggled on offense for a lot of the season, and 39 to North Carolina State. We just gave them a bad mark on offense. North Carolina State shouldn't be scoring, 40 on you almost, right? That's a bad mark. You shouldn't be doing that as that program. So for me, a North Carolina, you got to figure out a way to play some defense, man. You got to find some way to get some transfers in there. You got to find a new defensive coordinator. You got to find new defensive analysts. You got to get a new camera for your, all 22s. You got to figure out what to do because you got to play some better defense, man. You got to find a way to put a good program out there with your defense. And if they can, I have no doubt that they can build a good program, that they can build a winning program and compete in the new ACC with all these new teams coming in. They'll stay on top, but they have to actually do that. And I worry that if they can't do that, if they can't put a good defense out there, that losing this, all talented quarterback, this extremely talented quarterback that will go high in the draft and probably have a pretty good NFL career, I worry that maybe that's going to be something that once you just have a good quarterback or a even a great but not quite elite quarterback, what happens to your offense when you're only scoring 35 points a game or 30 points a game or 28 points a game, and those numbers start to kind of come down, from where they've been the last couple of years. I worry about that from North Carolina. They got to figure out how to play some defense.
They also have to figure out how to finish seasons, right? Because for the second season in a row, they start hot. They were 6-0. I think they were 8-1 last year when we were saying, hey, you might want to pay attention to North Carolina. And, they just collapsed down the stretch 2-5. Their only wins were against Campbell and in a rivalry game against a very depleted Duke team.
Yeah.
And then they get embarrassed in the Duke's Mayo Bowl to a West Virginia team that had no business beating this North Carolina team by 20 points, Drake May or no Drake May.
Yeah.
It's concerning for Mack Brown and North Carolina. I don't know how much more time Mack Brown has left in the coaching profession. There's just a lot of question marks moving forward for this program.
Yeah, just lots of questions, and maybe it's Mack's time. I don't know if that's true or not. Like, he's a good coach. He's won a championship, so I'm not worried about him being able to, still coach. I worry that the stuff he has around him maybe isn't as good as it used to be, and that when you look on the defensive side, especially, I worry that they won't be able to play enough defense to stay competitive. I'm nervous about that. I'm also nervous that in the new ACC that there won't be enough commitment to the program. They won't be able to keep up with things like NIL and the transfer portal and stuff like that. So, it's that's a bigger conversation about the ACC as a whole. But right now, going into this new era, you'd much rather be a Florida State or a Louisville or even an SMU where you're kind of on top and you've got a lot of momentum, as opposed to a North Carolina who's kind of just kind of gone away and flamed out a little bit over the last couple of years.
Gracious, how about that?